Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Explorer II, reference 216570 with polar white dial. You can see, and you can purchase this 42mm current generation Rolex dual-time sports watch on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during the video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this and our entire collection of Rolex watches. Now on my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, more oval than round in profile, you can see this is a large contemporary Rolex. When this generation debuted at Bezel World 2011, it represented a clean break with the previous 40mm watch aesthetically and dimensionally. And of course, the headline number is 42, but everything else but thickness increases commensurately, so the watch wears even larger than the 42 might suggest. You could see it's not a thick watch, and because it's not one of the rotating bezel Rolex sports watches, it actually hugs the wrist quite nicely. 12.4 millimeters thick with a generously sloped metal bezel. This one does easily slide underneath a dress cuff. However, across the wrist you will notice it is considerably larger than its 40mm equivalents, even those with the current super case. 50 millimeters from lug to lug if you were to wear the watch on a strap, and if you were to continue across from solid end link to solid end link, measuring horizontally across the wrist between extremities, now it's a burly 53.4 millimeters, or approximately the lug-to-lug span of a 44mm Panerai Luminor. Now the watch is hefty too. Part of that is the fact that Rolex almost exclusively has used solid case backs through its history, and that continues here. And part of the reason is because the bracelet is very substantial. You can see a 3-link oyster design with polished shoulders, satin finish top. It's nicely made on the underside. As you can see, it has channels to aerate and relieve the wrist of heat, moisture, and oil on hot days, but it also has broad swaths of space between the individual links that avoid the pinching of skin or pulling of hair. The clasp is upscale, very handsome, very nicely made, milled out, very solid as though hewn from a single ingot of steel, and equipped with Rolex's signature 5mm EasyLink tool-free adjustment system. Allows you to take in or take out slack on the fly. Now you'll also note that this is a bit of an understated piece. Despite its size, the use of mostly satin finish across all of the hoods of the bracelet links creates a bit more of a muted tone than what you'll see on many other watches in the Rolex line that use the oyster bracelet but alternate between polished and brushed links. You'll also note that the highlights, the polished elements, are few but nicely chosen, with the flank of the case in a high gloss polish finish and the hoods of the lugs as well as the bezel nicely satin finished. Also, I appreciate the attention to detail. For instance, while the hoods and the links are finished with a sort of linear grain or a linear brushed finish, there is a radial finish that sort of emanates out from an imaginary center point, such that the grain of the bezel actually moves outboard from its inner circumference. It's handsome, it's subtle, but it's thoughtful and appreciated. All of the numerals and indices feature inlaid black lacquer. Now this is the polar dial variant. White with blackened white gold indices and hands. It's a rare version, which is to say I probably see 5 or 6 of the black dial version of this watch for every one I see of this gloss white. And it is a gloss white. It's not to be mistaken with a silver, silver matte, silver sunburst, or silver grain. This is truly snow white with a few shocks of signal orange. Now it's also a cleaner look because of its size than you get on many of the 40mm Rolex sports watches, because the Cyclops eye doesn't dominate the dial to the same extent that it would on, for example, a 40mm Submariner or GMT. So it's a handsome watch. Though large, it wears its weight nicely, and its lines are elegant, its dial open, and again, with the white dial variant, you're going to have the Rolex that pretty much no one else has. So you get Rolex quality, but you also get a little bit of individuality not generally associated with the brand. Now inside, individuality continues. Underneath the screwed-in caseback is the still Explorer II exclusive caliber 3187, sized a bit differently than its counterpart in the GMT Master II. It also features Rolex's proprietary Paraflex shock absorber. It does not use the KIF system historically used by Rolex. It also features a different sized date disc to correspond to the larger dial. An interesting movement in every respect in that God is in the details. A COSC certified Swiss chronometer, it's then cased up and retested again, not just to meet the chronometer standards, but to exceed them to tolerances of -2 +2 seconds per day. It also features a dual time functionality, which I'll demonstrate right here, as you can move the local hour hand separately from the 24-hour hand, so it's a true dual time. I'll also get that 24-hour hand out of the way, and you can see how it moves in a single circuit of the dial for every 24-hour period. Very useful for those who use military time. Now, there's more to the movement. It's protected down to 100 meters, so though this line was originally envisioned for cave explorers in the early 1970s, it works just as well for most aquatic sports. Moreover, it's a tough, sturdy, and refined movement with a full balance bridge anchored on both sides, a free-sprung balance with micro-Stella fine adjustment nuts to actually tune and regulate the movement. It also features Rolex's proprietary Parachrom Blue anti-magnetic alloy and a Breguet overcoil architecture to make it robustly resistant to gravitational or positionally induced timing deviation. A handsome watch, an unusual watch, yes, a larger Rolex watch. Nevertheless, this one's wearable on a smaller wrist and offers an alternative to the cultural hegemony of the rotating bezel Rolex sports watches. Even compared to the black-dialed Explorer II, this polar dial variant is a rarity. See it and own it on our website.